Shabbat Shalom. The great sage, known to the world as Chrissy, age 6, was asked what love means. Said Chrissy, "Love is when you go out to eat and give somebody most of your French fries without making them give you any of theirs." Another wise gentleman, Danny, aged 8, said, "Love is when my mommy makes coffee for my daddy, and she takes a sip first before giving it to him to make sure it's not too bitter." And Bobby, age 7, when asked the same question, "What is love?" said, "Love is what's in the room with you at your birthday, when you stop opening presents and just listen." Wow. A number of these answers sound like they were given in a little bit of a different generation, but that's okay. They are timeless. And one more for right now, another wise person known as Tommy, age 9, answered, "Love is like a little old woman and a little old man who are still friends even after they know each other so well." It is purely an accident that the calendar very often juxtaposes Shabbat Terumah with the season of Valentine's Day. To risk a very banal comparison, Parashat Terumah is actually apropos for February because it too deals with the subject of love. It's not romantic love, but love really in its more profound sense. As Rabbi Maynard Bell describes it, this is the love that manifests itself in intimate personal connection, in our willingness to do for or to be fully present for another. Love is at the center of our Torah. If you open the Torah and put a yod right in the middle, you will likely alight on the word ve'ahavta, and you shall love. In the center of the Torah, it's you shall love your neighbor as yourself. A simple command. But love is at the center. It's at the center of our ark. These two words here in the middle are the same, ve'ahavta and ve'ahavta. Starting at the top, the amazing designers of these doors placed, "Hear, O Israel, the eternal, our God, the eternal is one." And the next word that follows that in the Torah is ve'ahavta. And then going down the door, "You shall love the eternal, your God." And in a wonderful design choice, here also is ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Leviticus 19:18, the center of the Torah. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Clearly, love is at the center, not just of this tradition, but even physically here in this beautiful sanctuary. And it is a sanctuary that the Jewish people are commanded to build with love. But there's an option about this trumah, these gifts, that has at the center of its word the idea of raising up. There's something elevating about these gifts. It's not tzedakah in the biblical sense. We think of tzedakah as a very loving gesture, and it is. But tzedakah, charity, it's not the best translation at all. It really means righteousness or justice. The mandatory gifts of tzedakah are to help balance the scales of the world, because the world is so wildly out of whack when it comes to applying justice. Tzedakah, from a biblical sense, are mandatory gifts. Terumah, the name of this week's parsha, these are voluntary gifts. These are gifts that fulfill a different kind of potential. At the beginning of the Torah portion, we are told, "Tell the Israelite people to bring me gifts. You shall accept gifts for me," says God, "from every person whose heart so moves him." Asher yidvenu libo. A very unusual phrasing. Don't find it anywhere else. Everyone was to bring a gift if their heart moved them to do so. Now, there's a lot in this old language about what they meant really by the heart. The seat of emotions was considered to be somewhere in the kidneys, and the heart was considered the brain or the center of thoughts, but we wouldn't hear it like that. We think of a heart being moved, and we think of something deeply emotional. Just take 12 seconds. Think of a time when your heart was moved. There's a reason we use that kind of language. Because when our hearts are moved, there's a sense of traveling. Quite literally, even if you stand still, going from one place to another. There's a sense of a journey, a transfer, a motion from one spot to another. You're not where you were a few moments ago. Your heart has been moved. And believe it or not, this is not something that has been given a lot of attention in psychological history. Just in the last few years, this idea of a heart being moved is identified as a new, actually, and vital positive emotion. Read a neat piece by Dr. Andy Tix, referring to a recent research study that was published going a long way toward establishing this little-known and unappreciated experience as a universal emotion. Well, the Torah knew about it thousands of years ago, but it's a new notion in the psychological community to an extent, and they have a name for it. It's called kama mutta, after a Sanskrit term. In several studies across 19 different countries, 5 continents, and 15 languages, this relatively new research shows that kama mutta is a distinct emotion. It's different from awe, amusement, sadness, and it's expressed similarly across cultures. There's not a great and easy way to refer to this emotion simply, which Dr. Tix says may say something about how undeveloped and unappreciated the idea of a heart being moved actually is. In English, people use this description when they say they feel moved or touched in a positive manner. When experiencing this emotion, individuals become tearful, they often cry, they experience goosebumps, chills, shivers, they feel choked up or have a lump in the throat. Sometimes they have a difficult time speaking, and they often leave the moment literally moved, inspired to be more devoted or morally committed. It's often connected with a warm feeling in the center of the chest, which is probably why there are reports of such experiences being heartwarming. Or even a new word for me, soul felt, S-O-U-L, soul felt. Depending on the intensity, situation, and person, some of these elements could be present or absent. But being emotionally moved seems to be most elicited when individuals increase in closeness or intimacy with what is perceived as sacred, something highly meaningful, poignant, or precious. Something sacred. Let us agree that the Torah was onto something when they suggested that gifts to build a sanctuary, a holy space, should come from the heart. Wasn't that exactly what they were doing? Being invited to come into closeness or intimacy with what is perceived as sacred, meaningful, poignant, precious. The research states common occasions of intensifications and heart-moving experiences include the birth of a child, engagements, weddings, reunions, the feeling of being one with nature, union with divinity, extraordinary kindness received, and making sacrifices for others. Nostalgic memories of friendship or love and unexpected feelings of connection with strangers also evoke kama muta. Sanskrit for being moved by love. I was most excited to learn that the group was coordinated by researchers at the University of Oslo, Norway, and my alma mater, UCLA. Yes. The experience of being emotionally moved, although common, has not been subject to significant psychological research and remains mysterious. But the Torah, when it gathers everyone together and asks for gifts for the sanctuary, says really just do it if your heart is moved. Whether the gift is tiny or enormous, even a small gift should come from the heart. It shouldn't be ideally out of a sense of coercion, competition, or guilt. These sacred spaces are precious, and the prayer of the Torah and of ours still today is that gifts for the synagogue come from the heart. Thinking about this idea of kama muta, I couldn't help but think, who isn't moved by the birth of a child? Seeing an old friend, receiving a kindness. And it made me think that this emotion may be understudied, but it is universal. We're so far apart on so many things these days. But aren't we all, please God? I realize there are exceptions, but the vast majority of humankind is moved by the same things, by the same human experiences, that in one way or another, if we are fortunate, we will experience to a greater or lesser extent, hopefully greater. It's so easy, this perilous time we are in, to forget that other people shed tears of joy when children are born, when they find a love or celebrate something wonderful. What is love? Noel says, love is when you tell a guy you like his shirt, and then he wears it every day. Billy, age 10, said, when someone loves you, the way they say your name is different. You just know that your name is safe in their mouth. Love is when your puppy licks your face even after you left him home alone all day, said Marianne, age 4. I know my older sister loves me because she gives me all her old clothes and has to go out and buy new ones, says Lauren, age 12. Karen, age 6, said, when you love somebody, your eyelashes go up and down and little stars come out of you. And Terry, age 8, said, love is what makes you smile when you're tired. The Israelites were pretty exhausted. They have a lot of rough passages still to come. But Moses and God talked together and tapped in to the greatest feeling we can have, that of being part of something that's wonderful. May our hearts move us to continue to be part of this sacred community, to pray for peace for the Jewish people and all of her neighbors everywhere in the world. We have so much in common, my friends. Let Kamamuta lead us forward. Shabbat Shalom.